Everything that you're doing to become a world-class salesperson are things that you can transfer to the sellers that you'll need in your world to create the leverage and entrepreneurial vision that you want to go and manifest. What can you do right now to build a war chest of best practices that you just transfer and downstream to the sellers that you'll need in your world to feed your family and provide this vision that you have?
Welcome everybody to another Fireside Chat. Today I am thrilled. This is the first time we're doing this. We usually have sales thought leaders and experts, but today we're actually going to have one of my favorite customers speaking to us. Chris Stuart is a close friend of mine. He is a awesome human being, and Chris and I worked very closely together when I was managing the Berkshire Hathaway Home Services account. And at the time when I got in there, Chris was leading sales. Then he got promoted to COO and then eventually CEO. And so we worked together closely for 4 years. Then he and I both went our own ways. He went to a company called Place, which is a real estate technology company. And early on in his time there, Place made national headlines by raising $100 million, led by Goldman Sachs in their Series A at a $1 billion company valuation. And Chris was part of that. And overall, he's just a good friend. And so I'm thrilled to welcome Chris. The highlight of our work together was watching Chris speak at Dreamforce, outlining the work that we did together and the work he did with Salesforce. And today what we're going to talk about is how to sell to CEOs, how to sell to executives, how to get in the door, how to make a good impression, how to speak their language and be seen as a peer and an equal rather than a sales rep who's looking up to them. So Chris, welcome, buddy. It's so good to see you, man.
Yeah, thank you, Ian. Appreciate the opportunity, and it's good to be with everyone today.
Now, you guys might not know this about Chris, but he started his career carrying a bag at Oracle. And from there, you owned your own company and went on kind of the executive track. I'd love to just kind of start us off by, in this program, there's a lot of people, most of the people here are very tenured SaaS or software salespeople. And I always say sales is a gateway to entrepreneurship or maybe being an executive. I'd love to kind of get your take on how those days at Oracle carrying a bag helped you become a more effective business owner and leader when you got out of the individual contributor role.
Yeah. And I think that journey was sort of shaped in a number of different ways. Probably the most important part of my career journey is that I always approach my job as a salesperson from a standpoint of how I could contribute to others. And it's sort of counterintuitive because I think there's that part of us as top producing salespeople that's, it's selfish, and we're self-focused, we're commission focused, we're achievement focused. And so I obviously had that. I think we all have to have that to achieve at a high level as a salesperson. But I also, just a lot of my upbringing, I also always operated from more of a team perspective. I really tried to engage the people around me. I tried to learn from the people around me. I sought mentorship early on. I always tried to have a great relationship with my supervisors and the team that was around me. And so I always felt like that my success was really a function of how could I contribute to others? How could I bring them along with me? How could I have a great relationship with my immediate managers and the team around me? And so I felt like that motivation in me caused me to develop some leadership skills early on that attracted people to want to work with me and saw my success as their success. And so I think that was one of the elements of my achievement early on that shaped my ability to lead later on in the roles that I would inherit. I think the other part of my journey early on as a salesperson was really being a student of my customers' businesses and their business models. And so, I started in the mid 90s professionally, and through the late 90s and the early part of the 2000s, carrying a bag for Oracle, representing Intel and Hewlett Packard and Fujitsu and Hitachi and Siemens and a lot of big multinational companies, and really just being a student of their businesses. a student of the change that was happening in their businesses,
Mhm.
and really demanding of myself the ability to know as much about their industry, the categories they were competing in, what was happening in terms of a transformation perspective with the internet and things that were sort of disrupting, and always approaching them as a salesperson with items of value, not just going there hat in hand, hey, how can you help me, but going there with an idea of where their industry was potentially heading, and approaching my relationship as a salesperson more as an advisor, as a consultant, not as just hey, let me in the door and how can you put some money in my pockets. And so I think, those two dynamics of how I approach my job, I felt like really prepared me for all of the leadership and entrepreneurial, ventures that I tackled after that.
So when you say I knew their business like really well, studied it, do you feel like sometimes you felt like you knew their business better than they did, or based on coming in with your perspective? Can you kind of describe that level of insight that you had into them and why that was effective for you to take to their executives, and what does that really look like?
Yeah, I don't know that I don't know that I would ever say I knew it better than them, but I did feel like I had a perspective of how technology might change their businesses. Mm-hmm. I had a perspective of some of the upstart competition that many of them were not even aware of, or were maybe discounting. And so from a standpoint of being able to describe where the puck might be going, and get them excited with credibility, because you go in there and regurgitate a headline that you picked up in a trade magazine, or,
don't work.
Yeah. Or you go in there and like, hey man, I've been studying this. I've been talking to your peers. I've been attending the conferences that you might be attending. I've been looking at your annual reports. I kind of see the compression and pressure and margin. I see the cannibalization of some of your channel strategies, and so coming at them with something a little bit more flavorful that spoke to where the puck was going, and in a way that I wasn't just regurgitating my company's lingo. I think that's a key piece of it. And I still to this day try to encourage people in my world, in the companies that I'm running today, is to get outside of your own vocabulary. Mm-hmm. You've got to adopt the vocabulary of your customer. And that's what I say when you speak with confidence and credibility about where the puck is going. I think there was a lot of early conversation, particularly in the late 90s, where I was adding a lot of value that they just were not getting anywhere else, certainly from their executives, right? Because their executive, I'm talking to a CEO, a lot of the people around the CEO are two things. They're yes people, and they're saturated in their industry. They don't even peek up to see what the hell's going on. Where are these competitive threats coming from? What does my sales and marketing strategy need to look like in its next generation? Where am I losing margin? Like these things, now I was benefited by the fact that I was at Oracle. So this was none of what I'm sharing was like something that I was doing by myself. Oracle was encouraging us to approach our customer relationship this way. Mm-hmm. I just think I did it. I just took advantage of the training, the content, the people that were around us. They were hiring great people from these industries that we were selling into. And I just, like I said, I made them a part of my team. So when we hired solution experts and these industry experts, man, I took them to lunch, took them to dinner. I had them over for dinner. I built relationships, and they educated me, and I took that, all the opportunities that Oracle gave me.
Well, here's what I'm hearing, which I love, and I never put two and two together with you, brother, but like what you did in sales was think differently about their business. You gave them a different, unique perspective in teaching them, in educating them about what they should be thinking about in the future and why it matters now. So that skill set is what we teach. It's what the challenger sale is all about. But what I didn't connect before is you did that when we were at Berkshire Hathaway together. I remember you were saying Compass is coming here and they're a tech first company. Zillow is moving into our space and they're going to be selling direct as agents now versus just an online, tool for housing searches. And that was infused into your positioning before you were CEO. I mean, you were VP of, I don't know if it was operations or sales at that time before you got COO, but because you had that different perspective of we don't want to go the way of the dinosaurs, we need to be thinking ahead. I think that helped, looking outside in, get you promoted and get you an audience with your executive team over at Berkshire that was different than all the yes people that may have been there a lot longer. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I'll speak to this. This has been one of my core tenets of my success throughout my career. I call it my 3 C's.
Mm-hmm.
My 3 C's have been core to my success from the very, time I started professionally. Number 1 is, what am I committed to achieving? That's the first C. What am I committed, not interested in achieving, committed to achieving? Number 2 is, can I operate with certainty? Am I certain in the activities that I am doing, be it strategic or tactical, am I certain in the things that I'm doing will influence my achievement of what I'm committed to achieving? And number 3 is contribution. To whom am I contributing? And I think a breakthrough for a lot of salespeople is, can I get my contribution to be larger than just myself? Right? A lot of times as salespeople, we're looking at our goals from a selfish perspective, my income, my rewards, so I just, for whatever reason, early on, I programmed my contribution to be in the service of others. Okay. So if I can get up every day and know that the activities that I'm committed to doing, because I'm certain that these activities will lead to the results that I want, now how do I contribute to my customers? So every single thing that I've done has been about contributing to my customers, because I'm convinced. And it's Zig Ziglar's, one of his most iconic sayings. You help enough people get what they want, you'll get more than you ever asked for.
You get what you want.
I butchered that quote, but we've all heard it, right? And so I think that's the punchline, man, is that, we just got to put some of that self-talk, because the self-talk, by the way, the contribution to ourselves is what makes the phone feel 500 pounds and makes us unwilling to prospect when we know we need to be prospecting. Why don't we prospect? The phone weighs 500 pounds because we're preserving our self-ego, because we don't want the rejection. But if we know at the other end of most of those phone calls, there's contribution because we've prepared, we've studied, we've trained, we've gotten ourselves in a position to know where the puck's going for that prospective customer, then we're much more likely to pick up the phone and keep prospecting. And so I think that's it right there, is to whom are you contributing? And if you put yourself behind, in the rearview mirror and put your customers in the dashboard, you're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah. What's interesting, I have a great story to share with everyone, and I want to bring it up in the vein of contribution. But before I do, how do you have certainty around your activities? Right? It's self-fulfilling prophecy, brother. You and I both know this, right? It's like, you know what you want, you're decisive on it, it's coming from a good place, but what about the plan itself in terms of how you're spending your time? Where do you get that certainty from?
Well, I think a couple of things. Number 1, I think a lot of times we look for an easier path. We look for the easy button. We believe that there must be a new way. We are certain that, it just got to be easier.
AI or the next thing is going to take away the real work.
And so, I think that there's just an element of our psychology that we just got to get comfortable with, like, hey, man, there's success leaves clues. Okay. Don't get too hung up on like innovating and believing that there's an easy button or that there's a silver bullet. There's always ways to improve, but success leaves clues. So look for those clues, and don't, again, let our egos be so big that we're not willing to be coachable ourselves. Remember, when we think we know it all, our slide to mediocrity has already begun. Okay. People around us, just leverage them. Seek mentorship. I don't care what level you're at. There's somebody out there, 5 people that have done it better. They've done more of it and they've done it better. Seek that mentorship. Do what they're doing at a world-class level, and then level that up. Okay. And so the activities, the certainty that you should seek in whatever, the activities are that you need to be doing, they're out there. Success leaves clues. And so what I've tried to say is I'm okay doing the hard work. I'm not going to just try to find the easy button. Okay. And number two, I'm going to constantly seek mentorship of people that have done it at a higher level than me and be just completely humble to just listen and just go execute.
I love you, brother. There's a reason you and I clicked from the beginning. It's we think the same way. It's the minute you think you've arrived, that's when you're going to fall on your face because ego is the enemy. And in what the certainty, and I was hoping you would say this, comes from getting mentorship and having a plan that's proven. You had Gino as a mentor and, he had other people that were coaching him, right? It's about that growth mindset and it's about always having mentors, no matter what space you're in. And to that, I went to see a guy named Brendan Burchard, author of High Performance Habits, last Friday. He was at Growth Day LA. And one of the things that struck me when I was preparing for this interview is that Place hired Brendan as an advisor to their executive team. And I'm like, that you just don't see. You don't see people in the life coaching and the personal development space working with companies at that level. So can you kind of give me the context specifically on why you hired Brendan and why personal development for the leadership team is such a core piece of your success or your path to the future success?
Yeah. So we went out and one of my partners had a relationship with Brendan that preceded, our company here and the founding of this company here. And so we went out and intentionally sought a relationship strategically with Brendan, and he's a core part of everything that we do. So he infuses a lot of our content, our curriculum, some of our infrastructure. He's a co-owner of Kajabi, so that's part of our world. And personal development is just a part of what we do. Our vision is to win in business so that we can make money, which allows us to give to others and live experientially. And so, personal development is at the heartbeat of everything that we want to accomplish as human beings. Those of us on this call, and those are the people that, that we employ in our organization. So yeah, trying to develop more well-rounded human beings creates a better company for us. It creates a better culture and ultimately results in better customer relationships. And so, yeah, helping develop the human being is a key part of what we do here at our company.
It's refreshing. I mean, that's why my company exists, is to help salespeople perform to their God-given potential and give them the support, the community, and the tools to do that. So yeah, the fact that you're still doing that despite having a lot of success, despite, being at the top of what many people think is the mountain you want to climb and having your own business or, raising the kind of money you guys raise, you're still continually deploying and practicing that growth mindset.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this, I've done a lot of coaching and obviously personal and professional development myself on behalf of the companies I've started and the leadership teams that I've run. And what keeps a lot of people from achieving the breakthroughs that they want professionally are the breakdowns personally. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, the inability to balance what we need to be doing for ourselves in addition to what we need to be doing, professionally. And so that is just something that I just try to constantly encourage people to balance, particularly top producing A-type drivers like all of us on this call that are sales focused and income focused and achievement oriented professionally. It's critical that you balance that other side of and I guarantee you there's small little changes that all of us can make that have 4, 5, 10x potential in our professional results. But if we're not aware of them, if we're not seeking mentorship there, you don't even know you're silently sabotaging your results because of a lack of sleep, the wrong diet, a lack of just small little things that can make the difference. So we want to just encourage all of those nuggets with the people in our world to have people just leveling up all the time.
Yeah. In the habits curriculum is half the reason or more than half the reason. I just did a survey on LinkedIn and I said, why do sales reps underperform? Is it their mindset, their habits, or their selling skills? And it was 54% of people said habits out of 2,000 respondees. And I would agree more. And how are habits fueled? Well, your sleep, your exercise, your time management, your focus. You can't perform your best if you don't feel your best. So I think that's where personal development kicks in. One of the things I remember is when I went to your conference over in, I think it was San Antonio. It was the one I went to. Gino Belfari, the chairman at the time, was going up and talking about his key to success in his role. And he's literally saying, I am a leader that cares about my people. I am committed. And he's literally going through his affirmations in front of everyone. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I knew what was going on because, in that world, but it seems like, I know he was a big mentor of yours. So did you get some of that from him too? Just that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, he and I have been together, built the business, sold that to Berkshire, built and ran the company at Berkshire together. Still a mentor and great friend of mine. We talk all the time, and I still do the journaling that we started together in 2009 when we were building a real estate brokerage out of the ashes of the Great Recession. I still do it every day.
What do you journal? What's your journaling practice?
Yeah, so I have 3 readings. In fact, it's not down here in my den; it's upstairs. Journaled upstairs this morning, but I have 3 readings every morning. I read the poem "If" by Rudyard Kipling. I read a segment of one of Og Mandino's book. Og Mandino wrote The Greatest Salesman in the World.
Oh yeah.
Og Mandino had a reading called "The Seeds of Success." And then I read what is called the self-confidence formula. And then I write 10 things that I'm grateful for. I write 3 things that made me happy in the last 24 hours. And then I write, I am earning whatever my earning goal is. I write that 25 times. In fact, Ian, I'll send you my journal as a soft copy PDF, and you can share it with all your clients.
Awesome. I'll put that in the link to the notes on the YouTube video, and I'll send it to you later. That's awesome.
So a couple of things. Number one, the I am happy, it forces me literally. Here's what I do some mornings. Some mornings I'm instantly inspired by what made me happy in the last 24 hours. Other mornings, it forces me. I review my calendar. I'll review my text messages. I'll review my call log to remind me subtle little conversations I had. Maybe my daughter sent me a picture of something she did at college, or maybe a buddy called and we only talked for 2 minutes, somebody I hadn't talked to, but it just gets me these endorphins going, right? Here's the other thing. When I put I am earning, I don't put what I'm earning personally. I put the enterprise value of the company that I'm building right now. And I remind myself that some of my very best friends in the world, I haven't yet met. Because I am attracting people into my company today on the basis of the future opportunity I'm building within this organization. And so it inspires me to build for what's to come, new relationships, new opportunities, future value, future customers. And so that contribution to others for me starts every single morning in how I'm programming my non-conscious.
I love it. I didn't know about your journaling practice. So thanks for sharing that, and especially giving it to our community. Getting all kinds of gifts here. Yeah. I also love, if you think about it, right? If you are showing up, we talk about the power of being, but if you are being the person who is able to attract that success or get that level that you're aspiring to, you're showing up differently. You're showing up differently because you're showing up as the person that's capable of getting the goals that you're putting down in that earning statement. Would you find that as well? Doesn't it force you to change how you're showing up and who you're surrounding yourself with and what you're focusing on?
100%. It forces you to get into that position, that state. It also, programs that reticular activating system, right? So you don't even know, but you're listening for these opportunities, Yeah. And to that point, I love this saying. In order to do, you must first be. And I think a lot of times we miss the becoming part of what we want to do. And we focus there first on the activity. And you're just prospecting, or you're presenting, or you're whatever you're doing, but you haven't really become. And so one of the exercises I've done with leaders in the past is, and this would be a good visual exercise for all of you going into next year. I want you to visualize and write on a piece of paper, force yourself to transfer the vision that you have of the success that you'll achieve in 24, force yourself to transfer that into a written statement or a written series of statements. And those written series of statements should represent what you will have done what you will have done in 12 months. And that could be client acquisition. It could be client retention. It could be income. Force yourself to write the statements that describe what you will have done. Now then, the exercise, who must you become? What must you be to actually achieve those outcomes, right? And I need to sleep better because damn it, I don't have the energy I need to do these things. Right. I need more patience. Okay. I need a different tolerance. I need to elevate my emotional, my EQ. Okay. Because you're all here because of your ability to self-assess. Okay. That's why you're here. So be honest and candid with yourself, and then start being those things. Start being those things today. All right. And reinforce those things in your journaling. That'd be for some of us, those things that I need to be and become are oftentimes more valuable as daily journaling prompts than what you're earning. Because if you can be, then the earning will follow.
It's so true, man. You got to come to one of our masterminds in Lake Arrowhead because you're speaking my language, brother. This is stuff we teach. We had a whole theme on being, and it's not the law of attraction. People could say, well, you manifest this, the law of attraction, but it's not necessarily that Jim Rohn has a great quote. He says, success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by being an attractive person. So people, when you show up in that state of being, people want to help you. People find you. People really, I won't say this. I can share it actually. I was at a conference and I said, if I'm going to build my business to the next level to take it, I can't be the bottleneck. And just me putting that out there and saying, I am going to let go of the needing to deliver everything and going to start hiring coaches. Within literally a week, I found a coach live that was an introduction that was met. And I didn't even think of him as a coach, but we connected. And then I found out he does coaching. And now he's going to start with me in January. So I'll announce him to my group first before I do it in this call. But that's that's how it works. You put it out there what you want, and then you become receptive to things that you're more aware, you're more receptive, and you're seeing things to help you get it. And people are enrolling and wanting to support you in that journey that you've so publicly stated. And it goes back to that commitment. You made a decision that this is what we're doing. It's not negotiable. This is what we're doing.
Yep.
This is how the elite operate, brother. In athletics and business, and it's cool to see you speaking about this stuff. I'm going to pivot a little bit, and I just want to just kind of like get your opinion. So you're a president. You were a former CEO of a 55,000 real estate agency organization, right? I'm a CEO. You're a CEO. A lot of people have a different impression of what a CEO is, or how they act, or what their energetic is. Based on what they might think in their head or see on the media and some old show or something like that. But what's kind of your experience? You meet with a lot of executives, you work with a lot of executives. Do you see a lot of them kind of on the same wavelength of, just being really authentic, down to earth, approachable, direct? Or are you kind of, the exception in terms of your peer group at this level? That's just a curious question I have.
Yeah, I don't know, like anything else. I don't know that there's a, kind of a universal description. Just like with any other role, there's all walks of life, all experiences. I think it is important to tune into kind of the nature of who you're calling on, their backgrounds, their experiences. The CEOs typically evolve from all elements of the organization. You've got, accountants and engineers and lawyers and sales folks. And so I think, training yourself to be multidisciplined in the way that you use language, the way that you use, your communication style, I think is important to appeal to just the different personality types and career evolution paths that have led the CEOs that you're calling on to where they are. But then when you get to the interpersonal, you've got all the same, dynamics going on. People that are very closed, people that are very open, people that are very collaborative, people that are shut off, people that are very fearful and, and kind of insecure about their role. A lot of people get promoted to their level of incompetence. There's a phrase around that, whatever it is. And so that the same is true for CEOs. Okay. And so, what I would always try to do is think about, okay, what might this person's win be in the solution or service that I'm selling? And how do I make them look like a star? And trying to, I think trying to understand all of that, is important. But I would encourage this. Don't program yourself with any limiting beliefs about what a CEO is or isn't willing to do and interact and share and collaborate with you. Again, be that person first that strives to add value to that individual, and then just see kind of what doors open from there. But there should be no limiting beliefs or no universal opinions about who they are or how they operate.
And it's not about the person. It's about your intention of helping them. It's about going in with your authentic soul mission to make their business and them successful. When you're doing that, it doesn't matter so much the personality type. I think about Brian, right? A CFO, very different personality than you, but we click pretty well, or Steve, or other folks. It's not, or David. Like it's about your intention to help serve them versus we need to connect and speak their language or do this. Of course, you want to tone it down or tone it up depending on the type of person you're dealing with. But
I think in my experience, having sat in that seat for many, many, many years now and called on constantly by salespeople, is the just the traditional sales approach where, people, I hate this. People call me, can I get time on your schedule to talk about your vision, your plan? How do I have time in my day to spend articulating my business plan and vision to a complete stranger? Like, what in the hell what's in it for me? Why would I do that? And I can't tell you how many salespeople approach, their new prospective relationships from that standpoint. It's just like, really, man, it's brutal.
So what would a salesperson, let's kind of flip the script a little bit. You're running a big company. You're very, very busy. What would a salesperson need to say or do to get your attention where you would be willing to sit down with them or take a call?
Well, again, it goes back to what I shared, like my approach in my early days carrying a bag myself. Getting yourself trained up on their company, their competitive space, their industry, and trying to anticipate, where's the puck going? And then how do I appeal to them from a standpoint of, hey, I believe I have a solution that's relevant for you. I would never call the CEO without laying some groundwork with some of the key stakeholders in the organization. Mm-hmm. So I would call, some of my key, constituents. Like if I'm selling financials as a software application, I'm at SAP, I'm selling financials. I'm not going to call the CEO unless I've talked to the controller, somebody that runs FP&A, and maybe a conversation with a CFO. I'm not going to, so I have kind of a thesis before I get to the CEO. Mm-hmm. But I'm going to call with basically some hooks based on what I've observed, either directly with their company and some of the conversations I've had, or about the competitive, industry that they're in general, and try to plant some seeds. And, so that kind of due diligence up front, I think, is critical.
Is calling still effective? I mean, there's video now, there's obviously introductions, there's emails, which we all get inundated with junk and crap sequences that are clearly automated. There's conferences, referrals. I mean, realistically, what is the best channel to actually get your message even heard in the first place?
Yeah, I think, boy, that's a big question, and I don't know enough today about, all of the selling environments that all of the team here is in. But certainly participating in conferences, I think cold calling, that's a tough putt. So, LinkedIn referrals, some kind of a adjacency, I think, is critical. And then I think it's all about, the follow-up, I think that, handwritten notes and well-crafted, messaging that way is kind of a lost art. Mm-hmm. I do read my business mail. I'll tell you that. I read my business mail, and I read because I get a lot of communication from our customers via note cards, handwritten note cards, and so. But yeah, I think being at the conferences, leveraging your company's participation in the key conferences, just calling and referrals and LinkedIn and that sort of thing.
I think the old is forever new. People think it's impossible, but you'd be amazed. You get someone's cell phone. I got cell phone call today. I didn't recognize the number I picked up. Okay. It was a crappy soliciting call from another country. And I hung up. I said, I'm not interested because I knew it was there. But that's the bar is pretty damn low right now. That's the bar. Not many people are calling people's cell. When it's automated. If you get someone to call and say, hey, I'm reaching out because I talked to X, Y, and Z at your company, and I noticed these key areas that we can help with. I'm with this company. I'd love to set up some time to share what I learned and ways we can help you. And this maps to something you said in your interview. How many calls like that do you actually get, Chris, realistically?
Well, I personally, I don't answer calls I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't answer them at all. Now, here's what I do look at. I look at texts. And here's an interesting technique is to record an audio voice memo and send that via text.
Yep.
I would be willing to bet most people would listen to that versus a voicemail from an unknown person.
I've been doing that for years. It works great because you can see it. It disappears. If they saw it versus a voice note goes into the great abyss. So my point is this, the bar is pretty low. So just maybe you don't pick up because of the nature of what you're doing, how busy you are, but there are a lot of people pick up. And if you sound different, and if you stand out through what you're saying, that's about them and clearly, shows you've done your diligence, you'd be amazed at what can happen because people don't get a lot of calls like that. So that's been my experience going through. I'd love to just kind of we're going to open it up to the group in a couple minutes, but one of the things in the spirit of contribution, and I don't know if you've ever remembered this, but I share this story a lot about you. You were super involved when we did the Salesforce deal, and you had a big vision, and it was pretty rare to see an executive getting that deeply involved with Salesforce. Usually they punt it off, but you and I were talking almost every day. And it was like 7 p.m. It was at night, and I said, Chris, this is unusual, man. Why is this so important to you, for you to be so involved? And I don't know if you remember this, but you told me, Ian, I was raised by a single mom. I didn't get to, meet my dad or have my dad growing up. And there are a ton of people that are single moms in real estate, and they want to be great parents and be around, and they also want to have a career, and they can't do both a lot of times, but we give them a way to actually do both. We need to empower them to be with their family and have that flexibility in a career where they can still make money and do it on their terms. And if I don't equip them with the best technology, the best training, the best resources, I am failing every single mother there. And you may not know this, but that made me want to work my ass off for you to help make you a hero for the 50,000 people and all the single moms that you were trying to serve. It made me want to enroll in your mission. I'm really curious kind of how that upbringing kind of inspired you to be the man you are today, and how that plays into like how you think about contribution and service. Cause that I'll never forget that story, man. It left a really, really powerful impression.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thanks for that, brother. I mean, it goes back to my 3 C's. And that's why I started this whole interview with the fact that I've just always tried to help everyone around me get what they want. When my mentor, Gino, his saying was, my goal is to help you achieve your goals faster than you would in my absence. I inherited that. And that's just, it was in alignment with who I've been my whole entire life. And like even in our relationship, Ian, I wanted to make you the superstar at Salesforce. You introduced me to Dallas. I wanted to make him a superstar. You introduced me to Jen. Like I wanted to give back to Salesforce. And you know what resulted? We got a sweetheart deal. Mm-hmm. And I was at Dreamforce, and Dreamforce gave me visibility. And we did a big relocation contract with Salesforce and all the employees. So that's the thing is like everything that you touch with the spirit of contribution is just going to come back to you tenfold. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, man, is just, I think we limit our horizon and our potential if we're so focused on the achievement of just the metrics and the sales goals and the income. And it is important. I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying that it's an element of the overall grand plan.
I also see an element of authenticity in that, and it's coming from a real place. You're not just giving lip service of I want to help other people and improve their lives. It's who you are at your core.
Yeah.
How'd you get, have you always been this way? I mean, how'd you get to be, there's a great book by Bob Berg that talks about this called The Go-Giver, for anyone that really wants to lean into how service and outward focus can make you and everyone around you successful. But is this just core of who you are? Did you develop it? Were you selfish first and you realized that wasn't working, so you started giving? It's unique, especially now.
Yeah. No, it's really just part of my upbringing, just part of my upbringing, and credit my mom and my grandparents, and it's just been really a blessing that it's been a blessing to me that I've been able to key in on it and use it as like fuel, and kind of part of my mantra. In other words, I'm glad that I focus on it. I'm glad that it's an intentional part of what I do. And it's not a, one size fits all formula. Yeah. I know a lot of great people. Some of my dearest friends have a totally different perspective on it, and they're very successful, and they've built and managed very successful businesses. So it's not that this is the universal way. It's just my way, and it makes me feel great. And I think that for those of you inspired maybe to have a little bit more of this approach in your game, I would say that once you help other people achieve 5, 10, 20x what they would have otherwise done without you, then that's really what kind of sparks it. It's like, oh my God, man, the feeling of helping another person become a millionaire, helping another person, become financially independent, buy investment properties, retire their spouses so that they can stay home and raise the families. Like seeing that kind of transformation in people's lives and knowing that you had a big role in that, man, that's just infectious. Once you catch that bug a few dozen times, you go, okay, man, that's it. That's the reward I seek.
Yeah, it's so much more rewarding to fill. Well, you got to fill your own cup with health and with things that make you feel good, but it's so much more rewarding when you're coming from a place of watching other people succeed and thrive. And I've seen a lot of that with coaching, and I'll never go back because, again, you're in leadership. You can watch people around you thrive and that's the essence of what quality leadership is developing other leaders and helping them grow. And I think I saw that at your origins as a sales rep and helping your customers, and then it translated to people, and it's kind of been infused through every role you've had. So that's really refreshing to hear. My last question, because I want to open up to the group for a 15-minute Q&A, but I know you got a funny story about Barack Obama based on Dreamforce. You want to share that with everyone as we transition to Q&A?
Yeah. So, they asked me to speak at a keynote at Dreamforce. I don't remember which year it was, but I get up there and the crowd's pretty light. I'm thinking, oh my God, like what's going on here? And so come to find out, they put me on right up and next to Obama. So he's presenting at the same exact time I am. Like, I don't even know really what I'm doing here, guys. Maybe we just want to put this on videotape and send it out afterwards.
Yeah. I'll put a link to the Dreamforce keynote, but literally the exact spot. And we're up there. It's me and Dallas and our team all excited cheering Chris on. But it was a little light. I'm like, this is one of the biggest stories of the year for Salesforce. What the heck? And yeah, we come to find out this exact. So you didn't share the stage with Obama, but you shared the stage time with Obama, so you can.
That's right. Yeah. Tough booking.
You were just smiling up there. Well, hey brother, it's always a pleasure, man. I love sharing with you. Part of what we do here is we give our clients, our silver and our gold clients, our coaching clients, an opportunity to connect with our guests and ask any questions they want. So at this point, what I want to do, and again, for everyone on the call, there's a great time to get a customer's perspective on how to be effective from somebody who's been on both sides. So I want to open it up to Q&A and really If you want to ask anything about to Chris about from your perspective, from anything about his career, his life, now's the time to do it. Why don't you raise your hand if you can? Just use the hand emoji, and then I will put you on camera and connect you with Chris. And we have one question right now from Julian. Let's add Julian. Go ahead, Julian Summers. Take yourself off mute. We'll go from there. And just tee up your hands for questions.
Hey Chris, thanks for speaking. I'm Julian and I'm at Oracle too. I'm a senior BDR over here, but I'm working on getting a promotion to AE, and I'm doing a side hustle where I'm running a business. What would you say are some of the biggest lessons you learned when you were a salesperson, moving into that CEO role and getting up to speed and building that business out?
Yeah, man, so many. I think that, one of the things I always try to encourage young entrepreneurs and early stage businesses that are forming is, to really question the problems that you're solving. When you look at your business, what problem are you solving? And I think a lot of times, people are building, I call them knife handle businesses. You know what I mean? Like no one's buying knife handles. So just make sure that, that you're clear on what are you doing, who is your customer, and then obviously as you build out the organization, make sure that you're attracting the right talent to fill the right roles. But I mean, there, so many things. And obviously I imagine your side hustle is really leveraging your sales experience, and that's probably what you're bringing to the table. And so make sure that you're bringing in some talent around you to complement all of the other necessary pieces of that business, your side hustle business that you're going to need to scale it up.
All right. Thanks.
Awesome, man. All right, let's take the next question is from Steve Milton. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. Thanks, Chris. Great to hear you. Yep, Steve Milton. I'm in London. You mentioned Ogmandino's. That was one of his books. I heard a few other references. I was just wondering what other books or the stuff that you read or people that you've encountered maybe in your formative years or like early in your career that really changed your perspective, not just an incremental I'm going to do that differently, but something which just made you wake up the next day and just see the world completely differently.
Yeah, well, there's been so many of them. I think some of the classics often get overlooked. How to Win Friends and Influence People, The Psychology of Money, High Performance Habits from Brendan Burchard is an excellent read if you haven't read that.
Yeah.
And then I really try to the recent book from Peter Thiel. It's not recent, but I think the most recent one that he wrote, which was The Future is Faster Than You Think. I think is a really great book. I don't know that there was one, Steve, or a couple of them that sort of changed my perspective. And I've never really, I'm probably not a great sort of contributor from a get there faster standpoint. So there's probably other leaders that could share like, man, there's more innovative ways. I'm more of like an old school traditionalist in just how I go about my business, and I just am very traditional in those that aspect of business. So I probably could have done a lot that I've done in my career. I probably could have done it a lot faster. Maybe if I'd have read a different set of books, It
wouldn't be as rewarding though when you go that fast. You get there and it's like, oh, that's it.
Thank you very much.
I'm hearing a lot of Think and Grow Rich too, in the way the affirmations, knowing what you want. A lot of Napoleon Hill, it seems like, is infused in some of the personal development there, Chris.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I am historical. Historical nonfiction, military history, various forms of history, because I do believe that the more that we can sort of appreciate where we've been, it allows a better context of where we might be going. And I think there's some elements of that as a salesperson that you could bring to some of your customer relationships that just add some credibility, that whole thing of where the puck's going.
Yeah.
Perfect. Let's keep on roll. let's keep on rolling. Great question, Steve. Let's add Jonathan Mack. You're up, buddy. Another Texan. Jonathan from Texan. I know you're an A&M guy. So
Well, UT and A&M actually. So
he's A&M. Chris is an Aggie. Not
okay.
You.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So AE, based out of Dallas, worked for Microsoft. Kind of teeing off what you were saying, Chris, about where the puck is going. Can you share some of the just a little bit more of the tactical prep when you were as sales or really in any capacity meeting an executive? You talked about really sharing a point of view around how technology can help transform their business, whether it's competitive threats and some of the company resources. Can you just add a few things you found most impactful as you prepared for those executive conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe I can best answer that with a real life story. So this was probably 1998, 97. And it was the first company I worked with right out of college. It was a small little boutique that ultimately got gobbled up by IBM. So it was before I was at Oracle. And I read a white paper around what Dell was building in basically that had been born out of the Michael Dell's dorm room there at University of Texas. And it was this whole idea that, a consumer could self-configure their laptop or their, and build it. And so had a customer that was using some of our contract programming resources called Fujitsu. And it was a division of Fujitsu that made personal computers. And we went in there with that white paper, basically, and myself and our president, was a small company at the time, and basically presented to them that there was going to be a future world where consumers could go online and basically build the laptop of their desire. And with that basically initial meeting, we ended up winning a multi-year, multi-million-dollar custom development project to build one of the very first custom configurators online. It was 1997. And so that was a sort of a case in point of saying, what's going on in the industry? Here's a prospective customer, Fujitsu, not even a big company. I had not even a household name. They were using some of our services. And you kind of build kind of a narrative and a theme and go in right to the CEO's office and tell them what their industry is probably going to look like and kind of back that into a multi-million-dollar, multi-year contract. And so when you think about your customers, just think about, I've got this bag here, and I know that it's providing these benefits, these solutions, this scope of relationship. Here's my customer. What's going on in their world that I know this solution could create some value around? And whether that's educating yourself, your team, how you think about your approach, like that I would spend a lot of my time so that the quality of my calls was through the roof. Therefore, I didn't need to make quantity of calls. The quality of my calls I knew would be through the roof. And then it was just on me to stay connected to them and keep nurturing those relationships. But that's how I approached it. I don't know if that's helpful to you, but that was a story that came to mind.
Yeah, no, very much. And this is a quick follow-up. Did you do that initial on your own or leverage exec? Who did you bring to that first call?
Yeah, I brought exec because I was very early on, man. I was probably like 25 years old at the time. So, okay. But basically the team that I worked for, they were engineering types. They weren't sales types. So all they knew was speeds and feeds, right? They knew, contract programming. So we kind of went in there together with like this more sales approach based on, kind of how we wanted to present our services. So yeah, make sure you bring the right teammates with you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jonathan. Great question. It really does two things. Number one is your deal size is going to be a lot bigger when you pursue it that way. Number two is your win rate is going to be a lot higher. You don't need as many accounts because you're deep in helping them strategically. So less is more. That's when it comes to research and point of view development. Let's take a couple more. Brendan, let's put you on there. Go ahead, Jonathan. I'm going to unpin you and then go ahead.
Chris. Really thanks for your time today, and I definitely appreciate the perspective from seller to now leader. Question I have is more around, obviously as sellers we know it's really important to get the power sooner than later. It helps expedite and speed up deals. I'm totally with you on building up a point of view and understanding their industry way before you reach out to a CEO. Oftentimes, the first call ends up being with somebody below them, right? And I think you're always trying to bring them in the loop or try to get to them and have executive alignment. It's not always easy. So I've always tried to multi-thread in these instances where anything I'm learning on the ground level, right, as a way to kind of get executive buy-in, if I can't reach them, is sending them a follow-up, keeping you in the loop, maybe ghost writing an email from my CEO directly to them. Sometimes you hear back, most of the time you don't, right? And so my question to you is, one, like, do you get these often? And two, like, are they actually helpful? Are they impactful for you kind of staying up to date on what's happening behind the scenes and having kind of backdoor conversations with the team? I'm sort of blind to that, and so I'm just kind of curious to get your take on that.
Yeah, I don't, if it's an initiative that I'm aware of and have helped point our team in the direction of discovery in this topic, then it's absolutely helpful and something that I stay keenly tuned into. If it's something that's sort of bubbling up, on a cold basis, I don't know that I always really pay attention to them. And a lot of times it's because the nature of what's being presented to me what's in it for me is missing. And so I think that I would encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and then just constantly try to, I think you got to try and build the story for whomever you're talking to in the organization and what support they need to look more, valuable in the eyes of the CEO, and try to tell the story, through that person, your sponsor, into the CEO's office. And maybe sometimes then when you're writing that letter, give that person, your champion, some kudos, give them some wins. Hey, I'm working with this person. What a sharp person. And man, they really articulated where you're going. And man, we think we can really help them. But great question. And, that's just been my own experience.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great question, man. Chris, I just want to be mindful of time. Do you have a hard stop in 2 minutes?
No, I don't. I have time after.
Okay, so let's get the last two questions. We have Ashir and then Nithin. So I will add Ashir. Go ahead, my man.
Oh, Chris, echoing everyone else's sentiment of thank you and gratitude, but thank you. This has been great. Question around, where the puck will be. I actually want to flip it and ask you when the last time someone told you where the puck will be. And I'm curious to know, like, what your mental process is when that came across your desk, right? Does it excite you? Like, what's sort of the reaction that you had, and what made you open the door and gateways to that conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question, Ashir. Honestly, as you were asking that question, I was scanning the memory banks. I don't know that really anyone has since my relationship with Salesforce and Ian, when I was running Berkshire. I think it's a lot. That's why I shared earlier my frustration about how most salespeople show up, in my world, is just so tactical and so self-serving that I can't recall the last time I was really approached with something meaningful that kind of really caught my attention about what might be happening. I'm sort of setting, my own perspective of where the puck is going, and I'm reaching out to prospective solution providers, and trying to get their perspective of their opinion to see if there's an alignment. And I am surprised by how few people are really talking about, where our industry is going and trying to help me navigate where we believe. So I think in general, there's a lack of it. I don't see it. I haven't experienced it. And I just think that that's a missing piece of the sales relationship for a lot of people.
Well, that's helpful feedback, right? Because that means that there's more opportunity for people who, like us, who are getting trained by Ian, building out great POVs. But I did want to just sum up what I'm hearing, though. Like, it sounds like, even in the example that you shared, right, you went and provided information from a white paper about what other companies are doing. Or so if you had to say what was the most impactful types of information to show you where the puck was going and that was actually credible, would it be from the perspective of things that you're seeing other companies doing in your space? Or are there other ways to think about that as well? Other information sources, et cetera?
Yeah, that's a great question. Here's what I've always tried to focus on is, what is my customer, how do they define winning? What are their success criteria? In other words, sometimes growing revenue is not as important as diversifying distribution, is not as important as, compressing expense and margin. So you really want to determine as best you can, what are the KPIs for that customer? And then speak in that language relative to translating your solution, your approach to that problem. Because as an example, right now, nothing is more important for one of my key divisions than expense reduction. Someone could call me all day long and say, hey, I'm going to help you grow revenue. I'm like, I don't want to grow revenue right now. It's an element of my strategic plan, but cost containment is 10 times more impactful. And so it could be, so you want to make sure you're understanding what are the KPIs and what is the language that your customer and your industry use to describe those KPIs, and then translating your solution to the 2 or 3 of those things that you believe that you can really impact. And remember that we don't need to boil the ocean. Like, if you help me impact as a CEO, one of my things, and just a little bit of improvement, the matriculation of my bottom line can be exponential. Okay. And so it could be employee productivity. It could be cost containment. It could be distribution diversification. It could be any number of things that you're providing. It could be security. It's data security. So like Jonathan from Microsoft, that's one of Microsoft's big things, right? Security. So guess what? A title company in our industry just was brought to their knees. There's a class action lawsuit against a big mortgage servicer in our industry who's brought to their knees. But guess what? Any title company or mortgage company in my book of business, if I'm Microsoft, that's all I'm leading with. Hey, listen, this hits your competition. This can be catastrophic. It can bring your company. So we want to talk to you. I'm sure you've got all the best bells and whistles, but I want to bring in our experts. We want to see if we can add value. So it's like understanding those KPIs, talk in their language, translate your solution to how you can impact 1 or 2 of those.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Let's take one more. I want to be respectful of everyone's time here, and let's close it out strong with my boy Nathan. What's up, man?
Of course. Chris, thank you for all these amazing insights and just being so human with us. I was curious on a little bit more of the opposite, that as a CEO and previously working in sales, how much of your job is still a salesperson, and what's helping you in sales today that was different from when you worked in sales?
Yeah, great. And Nathan, great question. The stand we take is really a function of where we sit. So I've always sat in a salesperson seat. And so therefore my response is, I think 80+% of what I do is still selling. It's a part of the business that I like, and I think I'm very good at. So recruiting talent is selling. Working on mergers and acquisitions is selling. Attracting new customers to our organization is selling. Change agency within the business, changing strategy, infusing new initiatives, all of that is selling. And so I feel like I still do 80 to 90% of my job is selling. In fact, one of the simple little things I do for commitment, so I'm on a lot of daily commitment accountability groups, but one of the things I do is, my commitment is every single week I talk to 10 new loan officers in our world, 10 new managers in our world, 10 new customers in our world, and 10 new recruits. And I have a 4-10 commitment. So 10, but I do like 20 or 25, and I literally just write them down. Now I'll go into our CRM or send my admin, hey, update this file, update this. But this is just old school. Keep it right here in front of me. Okay. And so I'm selling all the time. That's just kind of like who I am as a person though. So all of these things, particularly those of you that have an entrepreneurial sort of fire burning, I just think about it this way. Everything that you're doing to become a world-class salesperson are things that you can transfer to the sellers that you'll need in your world to create the leverage and entrepreneurial vision that you want to go and manifest, right? So it's like, what can you do right now to build a war chest of best practices that you just transfer and downstream to the sellers that you'll need in your world to feed your family and provide this vision that you have?
Love that. Thank you so much, Chris.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it, man.
Look at reading a P&L and, understanding a balance sheet and all that crap. That's easy, man. That's easy. I tell you that learning those aspects of running a business is much easier than an accountant becoming a salesperson. Guarantee you that.
I love to tell people, get great in sales so you don't have to be a salesperson. Like, you're great in sales, you can be a great business owner. You can, operations, it's everything. It's how you communicate with your finance team. It's how every aspect of persuasion and selling translates as a business owner or an executive, because you're always selling, right? There's a great book that I don't remember. Daniel Pink, We Are All in Sales, or something like that. It's a Daniel Pink book, but To Sell is Human. That's what it's called, To Sell is Human. And it talks about this. It's like the sales skill will transcend beyond sales, even with your kids or your wife or whatever. It totally translates. So you are the consummate sales professional. And I just want to thank you for being you, brother. Your spirit, your energy, your authenticity it was a career highlight for me at Salesforce to work with you as a leader and your team, and it was infectious throughout your organization. So how you show up impacts everyone else, and you are living, walking proof of that, brother. So I just want to thank you for bringing light to so many people, including myself and the Salesforce folks that work with you, Noah and Dallas. And if people want to kind of connect with you or follow you or whatever, what's the best way to reach you if anyone wants to?
Yeah, all of my handles are Chris Stuart, CEO. And Stuart, I'll put it in the chat. Stuart is STUART. Just wanted to point that out. But I'd love to connect with you guys and be a resource. Any friend or customer of Ian's is a friend of mine. So happy to help however I can.
We're going to get you to a Lake Arrowhead retreat and participate in one of our masterminds, brother, because I know you would love it with your passion for personal development. So we'd love to have you as one of our guests down the road, and always a pleasure to see you. My regards to your family, and happy holidays, my friend.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Happy holidays.
Take care. Bye.
Thank you.